It's the mom life.
Hey everyone, welcome to another Living in the Moment with B.
And Steph, hello friend, happy Monday.
Happy Monday, y'all. And you know what? I sound a little raspy. Um, Something's going around.
Something is going around. Me in last week's episode sounded terrible, so yeah.
Yeah. So it
Everyone stay healthy, wash your hands, that's what they say. So that's what I'm
yes,
trying to do.
'tis the season. 2025 has started off strong in many aspects, and I feel like sickness has just been hitting every household that I know.
Everyone,
And
yeah.
so we apologize ahead of time if we sound raspy or if you see me blowing my nose. I'm going to try not to be disgusting.
Yes, well, today we are talking about co-parenting and sharing kids after either divorce or just, separation, whatever the case is.
Yes. And so we're both married, as you guys know, but I do come from a single household. My dad was in my life growing up, but my primary caretaker, my primary world, everything was my mother. She really did a lot to make sure that we felt safe. And a lot of the things that she did was very healthy, and we can get into the healthy part. But I also know a lot of family members where it was complete like toxicity, dealing with the other half, dealing with the spouses. I don't want to be biased. My experiences have been that the women have been more so the primary caretakers and have been on the good side of events that I have seen and experienced. Again, I'm not hating on any men. We love men. But I have seen a lot of toxicity come from that end, including my dad. I don't want to throw him under the bus, but even like my cousins who have been divorced. So I do want to touch base first on the craziness of it, if you guys don't mind, and then we can end with what healthy co-parenting looked like, at least what I experienced as a child growing up in that kind of environment.
Yeah, I think that's usually the case, unfortunately, is just the mom ends up being the primary caretaker from what I've seen. And part of where I get that from, I don't really have any experience with it, and I don't know many people that have had to deal with it. But on a lot of the mom groups that I'm in, they'll ask advice on, we're going in front of a judge for a custody hearing, whatever the case is. And a lot of the times the answers are, that the judges tend to side with the moms. And I guess there's multiple reasons for that. And actually, it just reminded me of a comment that we received on one of our TikToks. And this is when we were talking about moms being single moms by choice. And a comment that someone wrote was really interesting. And it said, we allowed this to happen when dad stopped knowing allergies and appointments and birthdays, and basically when they stopped having to be in that role. And maybe that goes hand in hand, like I don't know, maybe it all goes together.
I will say though, in the defense of the mom, and we're married, we're in relationships, but I don't withhold any information from my husband. So if he doesn't know, it's because he's not paying attention or he's not
Exactly.
involved.
Oh yeah,
It's not,
exactly that. Yeah, that's what she was saying, like
yeah.
we did it to ourselves when men stopped being involved, like by their own, by their
And
own.
accord.
It's just how it happened. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have actually, I know someone right now that is going through separation, and she did speak to an attorney. But the attorney did say that a lot of things have changed where men do have as much right as women. Before it was like the woman, obviously, the baby's going to go with them. But there's also crazy women out there, right? And so now they want to look at everything as a whole, make it um, as even possible, like a even playing field, I should say. But you also look at behaviors, right? And who's primarily around the child. And so that weighs heavy on who becomes a primary taker during a separation. One of my family members, I don't even know if I should say that because she listens, but one of my, yeah, family members, I already said it. She did go through a separation, and they were really going through it, right? They have several kids. He was putting her through the ringer, and she was about done with that relationship. And we're not here to talk about relationship and toxicity, but that kind of behavior does go into the co-parenting part sometimes. And so a lot of the fears that most women have when separating is, will that continue into co-parenting, and how will my kids be, when I'm not around?
Oh, that's a good point. Like the issues that you had while you were together. is that going to continue while you switch to the co-parenting aspect?
Yes, because I think even for me growing up, I can personally say one of the things that I hated when we would, so my parents got divorced when I was about 5. My dad lived in a whole different city. My mom moved to San Antonio to be with her sisters who were living there at the time. And eventually we became like the lady in the shoe, where it's 4 single moms and like 20 kids. Um, so that was fun. I love all my cousins. They're like my siblings.
You're so close to your cousins.
Yes,
Yeah.
they mean the world to me because we would sleep together, like in the same bed. We did everything together.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't have to like do holidays separate. We just went into the living room, like we did
Yeah.
everything. But going back to that, one of the things that really was hard on me as a kid is when my father, and he doesn't listen to this podcast now. I will preface this with, my father and I have a wonderful relationship. We have gone through things, we have loved each other always. But one of the things that I did resent growing up was that he would badmouth my mom, um,
Mm-hmm.
in front of me and in front of his family. And then they would all kind of just join in and talk really bad about her. And so eventually I got to the age where I was like, yeah, I don't want to go see him in the summer. And
Yeah.
it really affected our relationship. And then we had to come back to that as adults. But that is one of my fears. Like, if I were, or one of the lessons that I learned, and I'm sure many fears from parents, is don't badmouth each other. Like, just don't do it,
Mm-hmm.
because never mind how you feel, you're so you're making it personal about you, but it's really about your child experience, right? The whole goal of wanting to co-parent is to continue to develop and support your child as they're growing up. And that that's a horrible feeling to, for someone to talk about someone that you love, especially when you're a child, because you trust your parents so much that you believe
Yeah.
everything they say. And then you start to look at your other parent differently, you start to question that, and then you start to kind of lose disrespect on both sides, and it just becomes so messy like that. And so I always, like, I tell my husband, if you and I were to ever separate, I hope that there is enough respect for us where we can always talk good around our child, right? That's what matters. What we say behind, I mean, whatever, we all have opinions and feelings, but around your child and around their siblings or around their family, always, always, always. Like, my dad would do it with my uncles, and then they would all kind of just gang up and talk about my mom. And
Oh, that's hard.
oh, it was hard. It was horrible.
Yeah.
And I just stopped going. And I'm not
Mm-hmm.
close to my uncles, and, things like that.
Yeah, it affects things for, years to come. Yeah, that's really difficult. I mean, part of me is like, I don't know how I would handle that, but I just like try to always think that everyone is just living their first life, and they were probably like, really, your dad was probably hurt, and so he was just, angry and talking badly. And who knows, maybe that's not the case here, but like, that's usually, or a lot of the times, can be the case. Like, people are just hurt and they're angry, and they're just living their life for the first time, and they say things that probably exactly that shouldn't be said in front of the kid. But how many people actually have healthy coping mechanisms? Probably not many. And that's one good thing about the generations, as we evolve. I think that we as parents are getting better and better about having better coping mechanisms than generations past.
Right. And I think, like, even for me, it was, I learned, like, or I realized now that I'm older, like, well, my dad was in his early 20s. They had us when my mom was a teenager, or like she was 18, 19. She wasn't younger than that. But so I'm like, okay, he was still immature. He was still growing, and he
Very
was
young, yeah.
a man of his time. Like you said, we are in a different space now, which is why I love to talk about this, so that we can all kind of grow and learn together. Also, to throw it out there if people don't know, but you can get into therapy to not just work on yourself, but there's also family therapy for divorced families, so that you can learn to communicate respectfully and,
Mm-hmm.
center your feelings around the best intent for your child versus making it personal, because sometimes you can't help but feel personal when you divorce, if there's been negligence, or if there's been cheating, or, something that hurt you really bad. But you have to be able to put yourself aside and put your child first, and that's going to be like the primary thing that's going to get you through it. It is hard though when you're around someone that can instantly shift your energy into like a negative energy. But there's ways around that too. I was reading, I don't know if you did any research on the topic, but I was reading, or even looking at suggestions, and some parents once they've separated, and let's say one parent's being extremely toxic to the other parent and they're like blowing them up, calling them every second, stalking them, you can change your number. And I know you still
Hmm.
have to keep a open communication, but you can communicate through Messenger or like through a Messenger kind of app.
Oh, they give you a specific app. Yeah. I don't know
Oh, I didn't
how
know
I know
that.
that, but you can, yeah,
Okay.
they have, I think probably from TikTok. They have apps that the families communicate through, and you can only write each other on the app, and it's about the kids. And so if it is like a level of toxicity like that, I know that that stuff exists too.
Yeah, and like you said, keep it pertaining to the kid, because when you're moving on, you do have to give each other enough respect to respect your future, to respect, like, don't show up and do like these random pop-ups. I also personally, another family member, I mean, guys, there's a lot of us.
No, I have no idea who you're talking about, so no one's gonna know.
But like, I had someone who would put a GPS on their child's watch, right? And so they would know everywhere they went. And then when they would exchange the kid, then it's like, well, you were here, here, here. You didn't tell me you were. And like,
Oh,
extremely
yeah.
toxic. You have to be respectful of someone's time. Now, if
Mm-hmm.
you really feel that your child's in danger or is going to be hurt when they're with the other parent, then you need to get an attorney. You need to get rights. Like, if it's that much of a fear, but if you're just being crazy and controlling and stalking, like, no ma'am or no sir, whatever, it's just a no.
Yeah. No,
That's
it can get so messy. I like how you brought up therapy as a family. I think everyone can benefit from therapy. And I think that that's something that we are becoming more and more accepting of. But I love it. And I'm not currently going. I went after having Maddie because, I just always had anxiety. I've talked about this before. But it's not even that you necessarily, and I think I've told you guys this, like you don't go necessarily for answers, but they put things into a different perspective to where you can get out of your own mind a little bit and see a situation differently, and it's so helpful. And so again, I've just gone for like anxiety and like mom things, but I'm sure that it's great for any situation that you need it for. A big therapy fan.
yes. And you, it also teaches you, because I've been to therapy too, but it also teaches you to catch yourself, because a lot of the toxic relationships, there's a giver, there's a taker, but you're always feeding into it. So
Hmm.
sometimes you don't want to take the blame, or you don't think it's you. And so therapy is a good way to check your actions and check, like you said, give you a different perspective, like, oh,
Yeah, it's so true. Like it's hard for we, I think, as humans, as people, to take accountability and to be like, okay, part of this is my fault. And,
right.
I do XYZ and I can work on this stuff too. And so that's always good too, to be called out in like a kind way to, check yourself too
Yeah.
and help the environment you're in also.
Right, because it's your child's environment. And it's okay if you want to keep open communication. It's okay if you want to say, make major like decisions together for your kid, and let me know where you're going, because you do want to ease the other parent. If they're anxious people, I feel like I would be extremely anxious. Like, if you're going somewhere major, not if you're going to the store, to the movies, or but like major, like, please let me know. And it's okay to keep that, unless it starts becoming toxic. Then you need to say, hey, this is my time with the kid, and they're safe, they're okay, that you'll see them in
Yeah.
2 days or whatever. So if you need to set those boundaries and respect will, that is your playing field. You need boundaries and respect for it to be successful, period. And if you guys
Yeah.
can get those two together with the child's best interest at hand, I think you can really make it work. But sometimes you deal with really crazy people, as Steph and I were seeing online, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know what
Oh
I
my
would do.
gosh. What made me think of this entire topic in the first place is that nobody is immune from this situation. This is just like something that people go through in life. And, sometimes, unfortunately, it just happens. But Kim Kardashian and Kanye West, like, and I don't even follow them. I'm not a huge fan of them. I think I've said that before. Like, sometimes stuff comes up and I just, like the rest of the world, want to see what's going on. But when I saw what Kanye West has been up to recently, my heart went out to Kim Kardashian because she's still a mom and she's still having to like send her kids with this person that is like off the deep end. And I think at one point I saw that they were in Japan, like he's taking them to other countries.
Yeah,
You know,
no.
they're still little, and it's terrifying. And I'm sure, you know, at their level, she's probably like, okay, well, you can only go if my security goes with you too. And, you know, she has eyes on those kids at all times. So it's a little different, but still, like, nobody is immune. And I can't imagine having, like, being her and having to deal with that. Like, that's terrible.
No, it is. And she is still a mom. So I'm not a big Kardashian person either. But my mom is. And I bring up my mom because she lives with me, so I have to deal with her on the daily, y'all. We're supporting each other.
Yeah.
But she moved over here to be with JJ. But anyway, she is a big Kardashian fan. Like that is her. I'm gonna turn off my brain and just enjoy. She's all about sisters. Again, four sisters. That's how she grew up, so she can relate. And one brother, right, like Rob. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
they're exactly the
I
same.
and they do. They bicker and they love each other and they bicker. I'm like, oh my god. So I call them the Kardashians. But we were watching an episode last night, the latest one. I think it just happened last Sunday. I'm just catching up, and North did Lion King, and
Oh,
she did wonderful. Or what, people had a lot of negative remarks to say, and I'm like, oh my god, that hurt my mom heart because they want her. They said she just didn't perform up to par compared to other children who are in that kind of industry.
it's a nepo thing. She's a nepo baby, and I
Right.
think I saw that she was probably placed there, you know, because of who her family is. And yeah, we're not going to talk crap about a child like she's a little kid, but as a parent, like, you also have to, and this is completely off topic, but like, put your kids' best interests, like, keep your kids' best interests in mind, right? Like, is this the best place for her at this point in time? Like, you know, that did that go through their head? Like, I don't know.
So she did say and I guess North only did one song. She didn't do the whole Lion King performance, like the entire.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a whole play.
Oh,
Um,
uh-huh.
and Kanye did go in there and like last minute he's like, I want this change, this change. He's very artistic and controlling in that way. But she did say, and I was like, okay, because right, we want to make comments, and I don't want to talk bad about any child, but she's like, hey guys, she's just a little girl having fun,
Yeah.
and also business, right? People are going to tune into the show more because the Kardashians are there. And so it was
Mm-hmm.
a business trade off. And I'm like, she's like, she's a little girl, and anyone that has anything bad to say, like at the end of the day, she's just a little girl who's having fun, and this is what she wanted to do. They reached out to us. She said yes, and that's how it came about.
Oh, okay. See,
Yeah.
and this is where the internet can get you, because all I had seen was that she was in this show, that it was the whole show. That's what the internet
Mm-mm.
made it seem like, that it was the whole show that she did. And, you know, that basically, like, did she take the spot of a more qualified performer? I don't know. I didn't even watch the performance, but that's how things get skewed. Like, obviously she just did one part. It was for publicity. They called, you know, her to be in it. So that's good that you're
And,
bringing that up.
and she only had, from what I remember, I just watched it last night, but I also have my baby. And when he needs me, like we were reading books throughout the whole show because
Oh, yeah.
I need to give
Only
him.
halfway watching.
Yeah, I need to give him, like, that's one of my priorities. I don't want him to feel left out on gadgets, TV, phone, whatever. I put my phone down. But anyways, from what I remember, Kim said they only had 3 days. So for the
Hmm.
people who are like, she's not dancing and going crazy, like, well, she only had 3 days. And then
Yeah.
this is her first huge, big performance in front of thousands of people. Like, how overwhelming.
Right.
But going back to co-parenting, Kanye has been going crazy. But even watching him, just even a short snippet in that episode, Kim like gave him his space, let him be with the kids. They spoke to each other respectfully, and I'm like, kudos, girl, because
Yeah. That's
ex-
hard.
especially what he's been posting like after
Mm,
the Super Bowl, disgusting, like
that's
absolute.
disgusting. But he's been talking crap about her family for years now, since they separated. Even, you know, put that aside, like, well, airing their dirty laundry, first of all, on Twitter for years, but put that aside and look at his wife, like, you know, and we can probably talk a whole episode about her too, and whether, you know, she's like, what she's doing in this entire scenario
Or
and why
like
she's
the
there.
the free Diddy, or go to my website, and the shirt that he was selling, like, did you see that? That was
Yeah, it's disgusting. It's awful.
Like,
And I think that the Kardashians should have been speaking up about that also, and condemning that. But
well, at that
again, besides the point.
right, and at that point though, as a parent, because I say if you really feel like your child's in danger, and I don't know if she does, I can't speak for her, but if you feel they're in a bad environment, because
She
excuse
probably
me,
should feel like that. He's
right,
completely manic,
get
is
an
what it seems like.
attorney. But
Yeah.
it's harder to get an attorney when the crazy parent is richer, is what it feels like in today's society.
Hmm.
Like if you're both middle class, whatever, right? You'll figure it out with an
Yeah, on
attorney,
their
but
level, who knows what, the agreement is and how hard it would be for her to get like an emergency order to, who knows. Maybe we'll see it play out on the show. I don't know. But
right.
but no, my point is like even put aside that awful stuff that he did, with the Super Bowl. But like his wife, dressing half naked half the time in front of the kids, like, and the kids have access to the internet and they see all this weird stuff that he posts about their family and, their grandma. And it's just like,
Oh, that's
I
terrible.
don't know how, like you said, it's toxic. It's definitely, that's probably the lightest word we can use. But she's a mom and these are her kids and she loves them with all her heart and she's still having to, deal with Kanye and try to, like you said, have a respectful co-parenting relationship with him. But my gosh, in that it's got to be difficult. I don't even have the words. It's just crazy.
Well, yeah, I think, I mean, whether you're rich or not, right? There's crazy people, and sometimes you marry them, and maybe that makes you a little crazy. But then you
Yeah.
got to deal with them, or sometimes people go crazy after. The worst thing that I have ever seen is when a parent, and I hate this to the core, I hate it to the core, when a parent uses their children to manipulate a situation or control the other parent. And I hate that to the core. Like, my dad was a serial cheater. He has 9 kids, some say 12, but he has 9 that we know of, right? That we talk
Hmm.
to, and different mothers. But I mean, remember every summer, my mom had to like, she was the first wife, and so she really took it hard. And there was a child, my brother, between my brother from my mom. There was another brother in between, and then after I was the first girl. But it felt like a daycare. Like my mom would go drop us off in the summer, and then all the other moms would come drop off their kids, and then we all got to play together. So we're all very
Yeah.
close. But it really took a lot from the moms to just put aside their hurt and their pain in the situation
My
and make sure,
gosh, yeah.
yeah.
Can
So
you put yourself in that situation? Like how difficult must that have been for your mom? And she just sucked it up and did what she had to do and so did all those other moms. Like that's really hard.
yeah, I think we've had this conversation with other family members, and they're like, nope, wouldn't do it, wouldn't do it. But I think because I grew up in that environment, because I am so close to my siblings, I'm like, I would do it. Because it's not, I learned
Hmm.
so early on that it's not the children's fault, right? For anyone that
Yeah.
doesn't know out there, your parent issues, a child doesn't choose their parent. Some people say they do. You can wish them, and they can choose you to be a parent, whatever. But no, children do not choose their parents. If they did,
Right.
no mean or evil person would be a parent.
Right.
We just come into this world, we're innocent, right? Children are innocent little souls, and we're just learning from around us. So if you're going to be
Mhm.
negative or toxic or disgusting, that's what your child's going to be when they grow up. And
Mhm.
my dad has always been very lovable, even to all of us. He's never denied his children. He's a hippie at heart, it sounds like. But because both environments were very friendly, and they kept their boundaries. Like my parents didn't text or talk each other or call each other. Once they were split, they were split. My dad went on to have his own family, and he stayed with that last wife for still now, right? um
Oh,
yeah, but you learn respect, and it has to, like, you have to, like, I tell my mom, I don't know how you did it, but for me it would seem easy because that's what you taught me,
yeah,
right?
that's a really good point. It's what you know, and I don't want to say it's normal to you, but it is. It's
No,
normalized to like be really mature in
it
that
is.
situation. Yeah,
Yeah, that's why I'm
which is
like,
good.
I even told like Julian, my husband, I'm like, if you were to ever have an affair, I would be devastated. But I would never be mean to your kid. And that's just because,
Mhm.
like you said, it's normal for me. Now, that
Hmm.
doesn't mean
Well, nobody should be mean to kids. Like that part is
right.
probably pretty standard across the board, but to be like so accepting still of that other person after the
Well, some
fact
people are
and
mean to kids though. They take it out
well, yeah,
like
it's terrible. Yeah.
yeah, you shouldn't take it out on kids. Like
Hmm.
if you're going to co-parent, you have to do it. And that's what I love about our generation, that we've learned so much and we want to be better and we want to put the child's interest and you know primary up front in front of up ahead of everything is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love that we are millennials. I know people talk bad about millennials, but we make a difference, man. We are changing the world. We are co-parenting. We're going to therapy. We are putting our child first. We're all
I
becoming
think
big
it's good.
units. Yeah.
Yeah, but we have like a good mix of that. Like, what is the generation before us? Eh,
Gen
Y,
X.
X, whatever. We have a good like mix of that, and then of the one right under us, like a little more conservative, a little more progressive. Like, I just feel like millennials have a good
Well,
like a good head on our shoulders.
because we have like one
We can
foot.
see things from a bunch of different views.
No, yeah, because we have one foot, and we even talked about technology. We have one foot in the past where we got to enjoy our childhood and really enjoy life. And we have one foot in the present and future where it's just crazy in
That's
technology.
what
And
I'm
so,
trying to say. Yeah, we like our one generation that had that early childhood that was still, prior to technology, and then had that slow introduction and has seen, well, internet specifically, and has seen it, become what it is now. And so that's what I mean by like I think we have a good head on our shoulders because we, remember both sides and haven't just grown up, with the internet specifically.
yes, guys. So focus on your kid if you're going to go co parent. Make sure there's mutual respect for one another. Boundaries, set boundaries. Do not let anyone drag you around or manipulate you or make you do something that you're uncomfortable with. Honor whatever you guys come into agreement. Um, honor open discussion, open communication. Make sure you make big life changes together. And if you can, you don't have to love each other, but if there's respect, like this is what I also saw. If you guys cannot stand each other, think of it as a business where
Mm-hmm.
do not be calling each other like crazy, do not be stalking each other, do not be speaking to each other with profanity. Like think of this as a business. Anything that you would do on the phone with someone that you're working with, that's how you should be talking to the other person, with just mutual respect, right? Sometimes we want to send these nasty emails, but we don't because we're going to get fired. Think of it that way. Like you're going to be fired as a
That's
parent.
yeah. That's a good way to put it. Yeah,
Yeah.
well said, friend. Well, it's a complex topic, and like we said, we're no, experts on it. But thank you, B, for sharing your experience that you have. And if you guys have anything to add, please comment below. We always appreciate everyone's input, and anytime we get messages and comments, we get excited because we like that you guys are in the conversation. And as always, you can find us on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. And so thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Living in the moment, it's the mom life.